Yeah, so let's dive into these first round matchups. I want to start with Alabama, Oklahoma because I think you can still talk about how important quarterback play is going to be in those games. The number, the not the number one reason, the reason Oklahoma beat Alabama the first time around was because the defense forced turnovers. They were +3, I believe, in the differential, and that's going to be really hard to replicate. What is going to be important is kind of the battle between Ty Simpson and John Mateer. Like you hit it on it earlier. They both would be much higher on the lists of, quarterbacks earlier in the season,
Yeah.
but we're getting down there. Guys are hurt, banged up. Like they're giving all they have, and both offenses have been sputtering. I think it's going to be really interesting to see, oh shoot, to see how both those quarterbacks just handle the environment, handle the pressure, because when they're both on, they're both really, really good. We just haven't seen it here as of late. Bama's offense has been depleted, kind of one dimensional, and then Oklahoma is just kind of streaky and inconsistent. So, what interests you about the offensive side of this game? Then we can kind of talk about the defense.
Yeah, Eli, you nailed it, by the way. What's so interesting about these two quarterbacks and these two teams as a whole is I find them to be extremely similar. They're both defensive oriented teams that had great offenses in the first half of the year that have just kind of sputtered towards the end here. So that's indicative of their quarterback play and potentially injuries for both teams. And also just, I think, facing good defenses down the stretch and kind of like, hey, if your game plan gets one dimensional, neither of these teams run the ball very well. So good defenses and defensive coordinators are going to jump all over that, put pressure on your quarterback that they know is banged up. So I look at both of these offenses and wonder who can make the big play. Because Oklahoma, you mentioned it, when they beat Alabama and they were +3 on the turnover margin, they all of their scores started on Alabama's side of the field. So Alabama didn't make them drive the field one time. They didn't even make them drive more than 50 yards. All of their scoring drives started on their side of the field, which is a huge deal when you're a defensive oriented team. So my question is any of these teams, is Oklahoma, is Alabama going to be able to pop the deep ball, pop a big play? We saw Auburn do that a little bit against Alabama a few weeks ago. We saw Georgia do that. But we've also seen both these teams have moments where they've done that. I look at Satania on the Oklahoma side. He's explosive. He's elite. I look at Ryan Williams on the Alabama side. Are we going to see either of those two guys catch a ball and run or pop a ball over the top on this defense?
Yeah, and you're really gonna have to. I think like the way Oklahoma was a busted coverage away from being 9-3 and seriously on the outside looking into the college football playoff against LSU. Like it's so chunk play reliant, and that's a terrible place to be this time of year for both teams because these defenses are unbelievable. I mean, Brett Venables still gives me nightmares from when he was at Clemson, and Ohio State would have to play that.
Yeah.
Um, those like I the thing I look for is can Oklahoma specifically win, just kind of beat Alabama's will,
Yeah.
and win the turnover margin again. +3 is really, really hard to replicate, especially in a playoff atmosphere. But then I look at it again inside and say, like, there were a lot of balls that Oklahoma put on the carpet. Alabama just happened to fall on them. It could have been, 4 or 5 turnovers in favor of Oklahoma. I don't know if I feel good about Oklahoma needing that many like big plays on defense compared to Alabama right now, but you certainly can't say it's out of the picture.
Oh, yeah. Turnover margin is usually so hard to predict. And sometimes it can feel random, but I feel like with Oklahoma, they emphasize it. And you mentioned Brent Venables. My word, just one of the best defensive minds in the sport. Had an incredible run as the DC at Clemson, won multiple national championships, was stopping the likes of, Justin Fields, right? Tua Tagovailoa, was making those kind of guys who were elite college football quarterbacks just feel lost. So no doubt he can do it. I wonder who's going to show up. I think this game's so interesting because these teams are so similar. And to kind of segue us to another game, Eli, I know we're going with the two big time games first. I also think that Miami and Texas A&M are extremely similar football teams. And obviously, these are the two premier matchups in the first round. Do you have any early thoughts on the Miami team traveling to College Station?
It's a tough reward, bulldozing your way through Pitt to go play in one of the loudest environments in college football. Um,
You're not kidding. 12th
that's
man.
I cannot wait to see what Texas A&M has in store for that game. As far as Miami's football team, that was one of the questions I wrote down. Will they be rattled? Carson, but you don't play 110,000 in the ACC. The only
Great
stadium
point.
that might give you that kind of look is Clemson, and they were terrible this year.
Yeah,
Um, you haven't faced an environment like that. And while sometimes I do believe the environment can be overplayed, albeit Ohio State rarely loses in the whiteout at Penn State,
true.
but it is always a factor. And you hear guys say, I can't hear anything. So then it comes down to, can you execute? Who is going to be able to settle in first? That's the most important thing in this game. I think they're going to feel each other out a lot in the first quarter. And then once you build on that, then you can start to take some shots because both these guys, electric quarterbacks, electric playmakers, but can tend to turn the ball over.
That's a great point, man. Who's going to settle in? Who's going to not get hopefully too far down? I worry about that with A&M. If Miami can jump out to an early lead, maybe cause a couple turnovers, take the crowd noise out of it, make Marcel Reed kind of question himself. I think that'd be a huge thing. And one of those game record type dudes that's in the college football game this year is defensive end Ruben Bain for Miami. I mean, he's coached by former Miami Dolphin legend Jason Taylor, whose son Mason Taylor is in the NFL right now as a tight end, but he's the defensive line coach at Miami. And man, the cameras have caught a lot of him in those Miami games this year, and he has had a huge impact on Ruben Bain. And I think Ruben Bain's going to be a top pick in the NFL draft. Is he going to be able to get loose and cause trouble for Marcel Reed? But Marcel Reed's one of the toughest quarterbacks to bring down. He's going to move the pocket well. He's going to read you well. He's going to use his legs and get outside. So, can Miami contain them? I also love the fact that both these teams have elite receivers. Like you mentioned, who can settle in first? Who might pop a big play early, right? Like Malachi Tony, probably the best true freshman wide receiver in the country on the Miami side. But then A&M with two of these elite transfer wide receivers in Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, who didn't look great down the stretch, but I do think both these teams are loving getting that extra rest. Neither of them played in the ACC or SEC championship games, so that extra rest might play a factor, and I think we'll see Concepcion and Craver looking a lot more athletic this game.
Yeah, and another thing too that gets me interested about both these teams, they're kind of trending in opposite directions. If you look at where Miami's gone, they're trending up. They're blowing teams out. They're handling their business, albeit against lesser competition for the most part than A&M. But A&M's coming off of I still count like the South Carolina game, and I went back
Yeah.
and I watched the highlights for those games to kind of get a feel for, Marcel Reed, and I watched Texas highlights, and like there were a lot of balls he put in dangerous places that
Yes.
could have gotten picked, but there were also a lot of balls that he just spotted really well, and I was like, wow, this guy really does, have that type of arm talent. To me, like throughout all I've watched college football, there's always a point where the magic just seems to run out for A&M. And I brought this up to you this year. Like A&M's always known for going 8-4. Well, they finally beat
Yeah.
those allegations.
Yeah.
I just I don't know. Like after the Texas game, like I'm starting to think maybe we've cracked the code on this Aggie squad. And then I think the volleyball team might have stolen some of that magic, beating
What a
Nebraska
call.
here over the
Eli, that's
weekend.
amazing. That's amazing. Beating Nebraska. My wife Haley's going to love that. Any of the volleyball fans out there are going to love hearing that. What a pull, Eli. Shout out to the A&M ladies getting the dub over Nebraska, ending their undefeated season. If you don't know what Eli's referencing, that's what he's talking about. Man, good stuff. Do you want to make a game pick on either of these two games? Because I'll tell you,
Yeah, so
Eli, I have no feel. Like, no feel. I'm going with Alabama. Obviously, got to pull for the Tide. But man, I do not have a feel on that game. In this game, I don't have a feel either. Are you picking a winner in either of these two?
So Alabama, Oklahoma, number one, I think it's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be dominated by defense. So if you're into that, it'll be great. But both offenses sputtering. Like I think it's going to be maybe the ugliest game we see out of these first round ones. You know, just from a football quality play. I think Alabama is going to win. Again, they dominated Oklahoma in terms of yards. They just lost the turnover battle,
Yeah.
and that'll do you in. So I have Alabama winning 23-16.
Wow, you got the score and everything. I love it. How about on the Miami Texas A&M game? I again, I don't have a great feel here. I've gone back and forth. At one point, I had A&M winning this one. Then I was like, I think Miami gets it. And now I'm back with A&M. I'm picking A&M mostly because I think it's such an even matchup. I'm just going with home field advantage to the Aggies.
That's fair. Um, I'm gonna say Miami gets it done. I think they win 27-20. Again, I love the way Miami's trending in the right direction. Carson Beck has playoff experience and has experience playing in the SEC. I think that's enough for them to get the job done. And
Yeah,
again, like I just don't know. A&M always finds a way to blow it. In my
yeah.
lifetime, they've always found a way to blow it.
No doubt, no doubt. And this is a huge year for them. You mentioned it, right? The 8-4 allegations, they've beaten them. It's their first, 9+ win season since Johnny Manziel was their quarterback, which is just crazy to think about.
Oh
Having
my
that
God,
big of a
it is.
stadium, that big of an environment, and getting so many great recruits. I mean, they're pulling 5 stars every year. So to finally surpass an 8-win season in over a decade is kind of crazy to think about. But Mike Elko's done a really good job there. Okay, I'm going to ask you this question, Eli. But because I'm putting you on the spot, I'll give you time and we'll come back to it after we talk about these next two games. So think about it a little bit. Don't overthink it. But last year, your Ohio State Buckeyes came into the college football playoff as a 7 or 8 seed, right in that range. So didn't get a first round bye, but did host a home college football playoff game. I want you to think, because you mentioned Miami being hot at the right time, trending in the right direction. It felt like Ohio State flipped a switch and went on a tear last year. Think about it and let me know later. Is there a team that's given you that feeling early on in these playoffs? All right, we'll circle back on that. Let me tee you up for these next two. Don't want to spend as much time on these two. I think it's obvious why to our listeners and
Yeah.
viewers. I'm not too thrilled about these matchups. I get excited about if it would be, let's say, a Vanderbilt and a Notre Dame in these matchups, or even a BYU and a Texas, I think would be much better games than what we're getting. And I've been pretty outspoken that I'm not a big fan of the 5+7 format. I'd be fine with a 4+8 format, honestly, if we did all Power Four conference winners. And I want to make this very clear. I'm not anti G5, Eli. Last year, Boise State earned a spot at the table. They were a top 12 ranked team in the country. I just find it really hard that we call it a 12-team playoff, but really you're only safe if you're ranked in the top 10, and then it's the next two conference champions. I have a hard time with that. Do you have any early thoughts on, are you kind of aligned with me? Do you see things differently?
Yes and no. Number one, I love G5 representation. Maybe not so much because the football is better, because, like you said, like seeing a Texas or a Vanderbilt or a Notre Dame go up against Ole Miss and Oregon, like that's better football. They're better teams. But I don't know what it is. Maybe it's, living in the Midwest, living in Ohio where there's six MAC teams all
Yeah,
over the place.
Maction, baby.
Um, it's electric. But like I love seeing, G5 get a seat at the table because you really do never know. And that's I I kind of looked at a path for both of these G5 teams to win this game, and their biggest strength, at least JMU's biggest strength, is that we don't know what they look like against,
True.
a major power opponent. They played Louisville very early in the year. Very, you can be a very different football team. So while I understand, like everybody that, probably should be 12 straight, um, and right now you have G5 representation. I'm all for giving them a chance, but I completely understand everybody, saying maybe not, especially not
Totally.
in a year like this.
Absolutely. And again, it is what it is at this point. I'm not anti G5. I think that there's, other possibilities out there and ideas. My one thing is, I think if we could circle a game that says this is the problem with college football right now, it's Tulane Ole Miss. Both head coaches have left those programs. John Sumrall still will be the active head coach for Tulane in this game, which is a big deal. And I give him a lot of credit. He's been very outspoken about having, being two coaches, having two phones, and having two jobs at the same time while he's working for both Florida and Tulane. Lane Kiffin, head coach of Ole Miss, will not be coaching. They've retained DC Pete Golding, named him the new head coach, and former offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr., who's going to LSU, will be play calling for Ole Miss. So I just think if you circle a game that's like, this is what's wrong with the sport right now, is the calendar, and coaches shouldn't be able to like take different jobs before the season's over. Like, I would love to see John Sumrall finish the year as the Tulane coach, Lane Kiffin finish the year as the Ole Miss coach, and give these players who only have certain years of eligibility their best shot to make a run in the playoffs. So I also think the other piece of this game that's wrong is this is a rematch. I have no issue with rematches. Alabama, Oklahoma is also a rematch. We could see some rematches in these second, third, fourth round games. I have no problem with it, but I do have a problem with it when you're a team that was outside the top 12. You already played this opponent. You lost by 3 or 4 scores, and you're getting another chance in the exact same scenario. That part is hard for me. If it was again, a one-loss team inside the top 12 and they get another crack at somebody, I'm all for it. But when we gave this boosting them up to get this spot again, it's hard for me to like be behind it. And that's not to say these teams couldn't win, Eli. Like,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
talking about it
I
as
think we
if the
can get
game's
into that.
already over. Tulane could go and win this game. Jake Retzlaff, former BYU quarterback, he could go off. JMU could win that game against Oregon. They get to the best part about it is they're going to have to play the game. They don't win in the stat sheet. They don't win in the game previews. They win on the field. So they're going to give it their best shot, right?
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch. I again, we'll just do the Ole Miss Tulane game right now. Like, it's hard to beat a team twice, and we don't know what Ole Miss is without Lane Kiffin.
It's true.
Other than that, you kind of look at this game, you're like, we've seen it. Like,
Yeah.
Ole
Yeah.
Miss dummied Tulane in the regular season. I think it was like 45-10 or whatever. Like, I'm sure Tulane's a better team than they were. Um, whenever they played, but Ole Miss is a lot better of a football team. The take I'll give on this is I think the Rebs come out guns blazing and go for the throat right away,
Yeah.
which is also a way I think Tulane can hang around. Because, one
Mm.
of those shots goes the wrong way, all of a sudden, maybe, short field, you get an early turnover, you turn it into points. Like, it could get interesting. Now, I think Ole Miss is too good a team to, make too many of those costly mistakes. But I think it gives them a chance. But yeah, I think Ole Miss comes out and gets exciting, kind of like Ohio State did against Tennessee last year.
Yeah, I'm completely aligned with you, Eli. I think you nailed that. That type of situation, it feels so emotional. It feels like it's going to boil over. Like they're going to come out hungry. And like you said, that means they're either going to go off and step on the throat, or they're going to be too emotional and play out of character and make some mistakes, and Tulane's going to capitalize on it. So I'm completely aligned. I think that's exactly how it'll go as well.
Yeah. And then Oregon, JMU. I think this could end up, being a good game. JMU by rushing yards per game. These are two teams that like to run the football. By
Yeah.
rushing yards per game, JMU second best defense in college football. They're only behind Texas Tech. Oregon sits at 20th.
Hmm.
So something to keep an eye on for sure. And then I think if we go back to Barnett, I think he has like 35 total touchdowns. He's got 21 through the air and 14 on the ground. That is something to like keep note of, take care of, because option plays are unbelievably tough to stop because you can do everything
Yeah.
right, but because there's a hole, you just have to take advantage. I think JMU certainly has a lane to win this game, but I think Oregon's hungry after the way, it ended last year because
Yeah.
I mean, it got ugly and it got ugly fast. I think that's gonna, power them through to this to this year. And then if you want to give your take on it, I've seen something on social media that I think you might like regarding
Okay.
this game.
Yeah, I think JMU, their chance, you nailed it, is the running game. Try to shrink this game down. We know about the new clock rules this year that have made games feel a lot shorter and feel like we're watching way too many commercials because the clock's not stopping unless it's under 2 minutes towards the end of the half. So I think if JMU can put together some long, sustained drives, run the ball well, their starting running back rushed for over 1,300 yards this year and averaged over 6 a carry. So it's going to come down to the trenches and whether that JMU O line can get any push on Oregon. So I think I completely agree with you. I think that's their route to win this game is, get the run game going, run the clock, limit possessions for Oregon, and make it really hard on them and make them feel the pressure of like, oh man, we finally got the ball. We got to do something and maybe force some bad decisions out of Dante Moore or some turnovers. So I'm completely aligned. What did you see on social about this game, Eli?
All right, so there's a JMU account on like Twitter, JMU Sports News. I don't know if you've seen what they've been posting here recently, but they are kind of what I'd say is like fully embracing the we're not supposed to be here kind of role.
I love it.
They've posted like practice clips of them throwing to linemen, and the caption is like, Oregon will not have an answer for this. They did one, it's like, what's your favorite Cinderella story? The Miracle on Ice, UMBC,
Hmm.
like Chester City, and then Oregon making this year's playoff. It's it's just been awesome. They commented on one of the Oregon like slow-mo videos, said that they might be the slowest team we've ever seen. Like
That's a great thing.
part of why you love college football. Just yeah, they're having fun. Like it's
I love it.
definitely, some JMU student that's like, this is
Yes.
awesome.
They're embracing
Um,
it. We'll have to share a clip on our Instagram if you guys are following along there to put everybody onto the JMU fun. Okay, you mentioned this about Oregon and Miami. Circling back on that question, Eli, are one of those two teams, or is there a different team out there that you're like, this shows me a little bit of what I saw at Ohio State last year heading into the playoff?
I think that what's interesting about that is it's hard to see because Ohio State came off of an embarrassing loss to, the team up north.
Yeah,
Like Oregon doesn't really have that, but it gives me that feel with the way they got bounced in the playoff last year. Like there is
yeah,
revenge on their minds, and as there should be. Like they gear up, let's go. And then Miami again, it's just a little bit different, where it's like they have the ball rolling, like everything's
mm,
going their way, and that kind of not to say this is what I think is going to happen, but it reminds me of like a Tennessee sense. Like
yeah,
everything was looking up for Tennessee, and Tennessee thought they were going to come in and stomp out Ohio State. We all know what
yeah.
happened. Um, but no, Miami also, in a sense, reminds me of a Notre Dame team last year, where it's like, okay, we had a bad loss, but we've regrouped and we've got a squad that's capable of making a run to the national championship. So I do like um, Miami's momentum going in, but to get there, they'd have to go through my Ohio State Buckeyes, and I,
Yeah,
one, I'm not picking it again. I'm not picking them, but it's not
I love
happening.
it. Well, man, this has been really fun, Eli. I love getting your thoughts on these first round matchups, top 12 QBs heading into the playoff. We'll have to get together for some future stuff and get some reactions to these first round games. It's going to be a lot of fun, man, but I'm excited to see how this playoff plays out.
Yeah, it'll be a great time. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Hey, man, thanks for joining us today. Your first episode, crushed it. Loved having you on, man. It's good to have some Ohio State representation on here. We love it.
Heck yeah, baby.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of the LCFP. That's the Laners College Football Pod. It's been great having Eli on today. This is your host, Laner. Before I sign off, I want to remind you once again, you can get this hat right here, this hoodie right here at duckbuckco.com. Use code LCFP for 15% off. We appreciate Duckbuck, man. They've been powering us all year. They've been interacting with us on socials. So they're college football fans. We love supporting their shop. So this is Laner signing off.